tradition of auto pens has existed in every presidential administration across parties. I had an auto pen when I worked at ICE.
I'm sorry, Elliot Williams.
Elliot Williams literally had an auto pen.
You were important enough to have an auto pen. I'm so impressed.
I am important, Casey. But no, and so it's a common practice.
Did you allow people to use the name Elliot Williams without your knowledge of the document or what was on the page?
I don't recall. So
I'm asking you, if you were a government official and you had an auto pen, which you did, would you let some staffer sign things in your name without reading?
Yeah, here's the question.
That's Republican Scott Jennings calling out the establishment media hacks on CNN for pretending Biden's auto pen scandal is no big deal. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and if you're looking for the best bits of establishment media without sitting through hours of liberal propaganda, you've come to the right place. Because it looks like the Biden White House's auto pen presidency just went from rumor to full-blown constitutional crisis. I mean, the new House Oversight report lays out 100 pages of proof that unelected aides were signing off on pardons and executive actions without Biden's knowledge or direction. Here's a panel of CNN shills trying to spin it and Scott Jennings shutting it down in real time.
Rather, the president may sign a bill within the meaning of Article 1, Section 7 by directing a subordinate to affix the president's signature to such a bill, for example, by auto pen.
The issue is not the use of the auto pen. The issue is the last thing you said, directing someone, the president making a decision. What Comer and the guys over at Oversight have found is that there's no clear evidence that Joe Biden personally made the decisions that only a president can make.
Well, that's a fair question, but signing legislation is as much a presidential power as issuing pardons is, right? They're both in the Constitution. The president has the power to execute, to execute legislation, has the power to pardon. If, as is the case with George W. Bush, he can delegate the signing of legislation.
You guys are missing the point. The allegation is Joe Biden had no idea that his signature was being affixed to certain things, and if that's true, it is a valid question. If the president doesn't personally make a decision or make a direction,
I think it's perfectly a valid question. I'm just saying the notion of presidents delegating their authority,
president's not a figurehead,
even on constitutionally mandated powers, the president can delegate his authority, and that might have been the case here.
An allegation that you say there's no there's no evidence that supports that allegation. The president knew, he was aware, he directed. The president has said it since then that he was aware and he knew and he directed.
Yeah, and
so
Scott, we were talking about this. My point is, I think every power has some way of being executed through other people in American government. If it's a broader question about was Joe Biden fit to be president, well, that's a political debate to be had. Congress can have it.
To me, it's just very simple. That what they have found is that there's no clear. They can't really document the decision-making chain of command. So you get the president's signature on documents and no clear paper trail of how he made that decision, who he told to affix his name to it. It's a legitimate investigation.
You know, Jennings is absolutely right here. The issue isn't the pen, it's the puppet in office. I mean, Article 2 gives pardon power exclusively to the president, not his handlers. There's zero documentation that Biden ever gave those orders. Every past president who used an auto pen, Reagan, Obama, even Trump, left a paper trail proving they personally directed it. The Oversight Committee found nothing but aides pleading the fifth, dodging questions about who really authorized these signatures. Here's CNN trying its best to spin this once again and absolutely failing.
Question, was my authority delegated to that person? And I think they do have the authority to do so. Laws and regulations, and I'm serious, Scott, laws and regulations.
The authority to delegate pardons and executive orders, the president of the United States can say, you unelected staffer can go sign my name on a document that I've never seen for a decision that I've never made?
Quite often, the United States Code delegates authority. So through the President of the United States, through the Attorney General, whatever else, X person can carry out a function. And certainly that could be the case. Now, Donald Trump, for instance, in his first term, pardoned like 1,600 people. And I have a hard time believing that he was aware of every single person that he was pardoning. One could make a challenge. Every president does this. Now, if it's a question about Biden's fitness for office, did he know what he was? Of course, raise that question. But I just, one, given how vast the pardon power is, and two, given how comprehensive the use of auto pens are across administrations, I have a hard time seeing a legal challenge.
Nobody can be delegated the pardon power.
Yes.
It is a constitutional power.
Yes.
And I don't really think you can delegate the executive order power
Okay,
either, because the executive has to make the order.
So, Scott, the president.
You know, despite what establishment media says, no one can delegate essential presidential powers. You can't sign off on pardons for Fauci or Schiff while the president dozes off to Matlock reruns. The law requires the president himself to act, and Jennings exposes how Biden's team turned that into a bureaucratic free-for-all. It's proof the White House wasn't led by a commander-in-chief, it was run by a committee of unelected aides. Here's Byron Donalds on Fox News taking it even further.
It details a coordinated effort by Biden's staff to cover up his cognitive decline. You're on that committee. Who's going to be held accountable for all of what's going on here?
Well, now at this point, it's important for the Department of Justice to pick up the baton from where we left off. There's going to have to be some major investigations into the actual operations in that White House. And we believe that the actions that were taken where the Autopen was used without the president's ability to know, that those are legally invalid. And that's really something for the Department of Justice now to weigh in on. With respect to Dr. O'Connor, the president's physician, I believe it's something where the D.C. Medical Board needs to really investigate what he was doing with his decisions as the president's physician. And if his medical license needs to be revoked, then so be it. But the real accountability, Stu, is always going to be at the ballot box. Voters need to understand that the Democrats had no problem with the president who had no ability to discharge his duties. And these are the same people who are shutting down the government. These are the same people who are trying to advocate to get power back in America, and they simply cannot be trusted.
You know, the oversight report lays it all out. Biden's aides weren't just overstepping, they were running the presidency by proxy. I mean, witnesses took the fifth over 140 times to avoid confirming who actually authorized those Autopen pardons. There's no paper trail, no directive, no proof Biden was even aware. The committee calls those actions null and void, and that means every signature rubber stamped under this farce could be undone. What we're seeing isn't precedent, it's the exposure of a government that forgot who's supposed to be in charge. But let me know what you think. Should Biden's Autopen pardons be reversed and the aides behind them face prosecution? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye.